Today I will be talking about my research on managing the behaviour of students with ADHD within a classroom. I have created a poster which probably can't be viewed here, but I will upload it with my video. So talking about high incidence learning disabilities. Learning disabilities are neurologically based processing problems. So these processing problems can interfere with learning both basic and higher level skills. Basic skills such as reading, writing, math, and higher level skills such as organisation, time planning, abstract reasoning, long and short-term memory and attention are just a few ways that processing can interfere with learning. Disabilities that are identified within a special education setting are distinguished as either high or low frequency, and this is depending on how frequently the characteristics are encountered in classrooms. High frequency disabilities make up 80% of all students with disabilities and include speech and language impairment, learning disabilities, emotional disturbance, and mild intellectual disabilities. There are many different accommodations and modifications that can be implemented within a classroom environment and a student's life to improve their listening skills, social interaction, and their behavioural patterns. High incident disability students share particular characteristics that help to distinguish them from being diagnosed with a low incident disability. Students with a high incident disability are often hard to separate from students without disabilities, due to the combination of academic, behavioural and social problems that they display. These particular students can meet the same standards that students without a disability can, especially when highly structured interventions are put into action within a classroom environment. So ADHD as a high incidence learning disability. So ADHD is otherwise known as the attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and it is a behavioural disorder found in children and adults. It is a psychiatric disorder of the neurodevelopmental nature and is characterised by excessive activity, difficulty paying attention, and or difficulty controlling behaviours, which are not fitting for that person's age. When we look at children with ADHD, we find that whilst they understand what is expected from them, they still have difficulty following through, usually because they cannot sit still, pay attention, or focus on details. This can be a very difficult situation to handle within a classroom environment, as all learning needs attention and focus for its progress. The main features of ADHD are inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. These three things alone can cause disruption within students' lives as well as for their families and education in the classroom. Whilst there is a diagnosis for ADHD, there unfortunately is no cure. However, there are treatments such as medications that help to decrease the impulsivity and hyperactivity and instead increase their attention. Most experts agree that treatment for ADHD should address multiple aspects of the individual's functioning and should not only be limited and rely on medication. Teachers and educators can help students with ADHD within their treatment by ensuring a structured and safe classroom environment, regular conversations about the student's progress in regards to discipline and limit setting with parents, and offering extended help or tutoring service for the students. So this research topic was based on the behaviour management for ADHD students within the classroom. And whilst there are many different practices and interventions that can be used, we'll be looking at the behaviour rules, the classroom rules, and the behaviour modifications that can be used to help control and benefit students that have ADHD. So when we're looking at the behaviour rules, we can see that expectations from students with ADHD need to be maintained and kept consistent in order for these children to understand how to behave within a social and classroom environment. For example, when disciplining a student with ADHD, teachers and educators need to try and not restrict a student's break time, such as restricting their lunch play as a punishment. This break time is a good time for students to release excess energy and centralise themselves so they can continue for their day. Teachers and educators also need to try and distinguish between behaviours that are non-compliant and those that are the result of ADHD. This can sometimes be a difficult task to overcome. However, with the use of anecdotal notes to see when the student may be expressing ADHD behaviours, it will become easier for a behaviour plan to be put in place that will help resolve the difference between the two types. Students with ADHD are also likely to miss some instructions due to the characteristic of them being inattentive during learning time. To overcome this, instruction should be given to all students at least twice, and then a discussion between pairs will help to ensure all students understand what is to be expected from them. By ensuring that instructions are given to all students twice and not just the students with ADHD, it helps to create a united classroom environment where all students feel equal and no one feels excluded for being different. It would also benefit to encourage any students who might believe they have difficulty with the task to meet with the teacher for help, allowing students with ADHD to choose for themselves that they'll be requiring extra assistance and therefore having control over their own learning. By having control over their own learning, they are shown to be taking responsibility for themselves. When we look at the classroom rules for teachers and educators who have ADHD students within the classroom, it's important to have rules within the environment in order to maintain a smooth and manageable classroom. These rules should be set up and controlled as soon as possible. For example, establishing a classroom routine will help students with ADHD to become responsible for themselves and their learning, whilst also helping to keep them feeling prepared for what is to come throughout the day. A few other ideas to use within the classroom is to keep all explicit rules visible for all students, provide consequences in a calm manner, and most importantly, providing consequences for the behaviour rather than for the student. For example, if a student with ADHD is distracted, it is the fact of being distracted that the attention needs to be brought to, and not the student as an individual. This can be done by either speaking one-on-one with the student to explain the behaviour is unacceptable, or speaking in general to the whole class so the student doesn't feel singled out. When we look at the behaviour modifications that need to be put in place within the classroom, we need to include the student, the parents and the families to create these to help make sure that everyone is on the same page, so as to control school life as well as the home life. Contracts are proven to be, they work well for students with ADHD as they show what behaviour is to be expected and what the reinforcement will be applied to go with these. Behaviour plans are also an excellent way to ensure that students are on the same page as parents and teachers, as it explicitly states what particular consequences will be for certain actions. These behaviour plans and contracts need to be periodically updated with the help of parents and the student, and they are used to help promote further education about behaviour that is acceptable within society. Another behaviour modification that can be used with children who have ADHD is to use the 5-minute desk rests to help students regain control when they are having a stressful moment. These stressful moments could occur outside the school environment and the emotions that have been brought into the classroom, so it is important for teachers and educators to recognise that students with ADHD might not be able to control all of their emotions consistently, and therefore allowing them 5 minutes not only gives them a specific time frame to help themselves, but also helps them understand that it is okay to feel stressed or upset, as long as they deal with it in a productive and calm way. The use of a timer during these 5-minute breaks is a beneficial way of managing these break times and helping ADHD students learn to overcome and manage their emotions within a time frame when possible. So in conclusion, managing the behaviour of students with ADHD within a classroom environment can become very challenging at times for educators and students and teachers. It is the management of these behaviours alongside having patience that helps not only the student with ADHD to develop as an individual, but helps to regulate the needs of other students in the classroom as well as create an environment where the teacher can focus on their teaching. It is important to remember that every student with ADHD has a home life and a family, and whilst it's important to help the student, it's also important to discuss with the family what can be done to support everyone at home to therefore benefit the child's future. Discussing the use of behaviour management at home so that it coincides with the behaviour management being used within the classroom, as well as a communication journal between school and home so that everyone is aware of what achievements as well as issues have happened daily. By controlling the behaviour and classroom rules and putting in place behaviour modifications from an early stage, it will help to not only benefit the child with ADHD in a school environment, but also help them to have the chance to attain goals successfully for the future. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.